Have you ever stared at a text message on a Friday evening, watching the cursor blink while you type and retype the exact same excuse? I'm so sorry, but I really can't make it tonight. I'm just feeling incredibly exhausted and think I'm coming down with something. You pause for a heartbeat, then finally hit send. The instant that little blue bubble appears, a massive, overwhelming wave of relief floods your entire body. You peel off your tight, uncomfortable clothes, slip into the softest, oversized shirt you own, and collapse onto the living room couch. Yet that sweet, comforting relief lasts only 10 or 15 minutes. Right after it fades, a dark, heavy, and all too familiar cloud of guilt slowly creeps into your chest. You open your phone and scroll through social media, seeing endless stories of your friends laughing at a dimly lit bar, clinking glasses, and living what society aggressively calls the best years of their lives. And there you are, completely alone in your quiet living room, eating takeout, wondering if something is fundamentally broken inside your mind. Why do 80% of young adults today secretly pray for the universe to send a massive thunderstorm just so their weekend plans will get canceled? Why does the simple idea of stepping out your front door to go to a party feel like an impossible mountain to climb? If you've ever felt this exact agonizing sequence, temporary relief followed by crushing guilt, you need to listen very closely. Because in just a moment you're going to discover the exact biological reason why forcing yourself to go out might actually be actively damaging your brain chemistry. It's a hidden truth that absolutely terrifies me about our modern hustle culture. We live in a relentless world that constantly screams at us to always be out there, visible and active. Culture tells us success looks like endless networking events, packed weekend schedules, and nonstop social interaction. It whispers that if you're spending a Saturday night reading a book, watering your plants, or simply staring at your ceiling, you're wasting your youth, you're incredibly lazy, or worse, you're just a profoundly boring person. I used to believe that toxic lie with every fiber of my being. I used to constantly force myself into crowded, noisy rooms, pasting a bright fake smile on my tired face, screaming over incredibly loud music just to have a completely empty, superficial conversation with someone whose name I would inevitably forget in less than 5 minutes. And I would always come home feeling completely hollowed out, empty, and physically ill. But what if I told you that your extreme, undeniable desire to stay home has absolutely nothing to do with being lazy, antisocial, or depressed? What if I told you that your brain is actually perfectly healthy and is simply executing a highly advanced evolutionary survival mechanism that most people don't even know exists? By the end of this video, you will discover the fascinating biological truth behind your desperate need to stay inside, the invisible neurological exhaustion that is secretly draining your energy every single day, and exactly how to finally stop feeling guilty for choosing your quiet, safe sanctuary over a chaotic, unpredictable world. You are not broken. You are not missing out on life. You are simply operating on a completely different biological operating system, and society has been harshly judging you based on an instruction manual that was never meant for your specific brain. Let's begin. Let's take a microscopic look at the exact anatomy of making plans. On a completely random Tuesday afternoon, you're sitting at your desk, and a friend texts asking if you want to grab drinks on Friday night. In that moment, your brain plays a very strange trick. Psychologists call it the empathy gap or projection bias. Your current Tuesday brain, fully rested, completely calm, and currently isolated, cannot accurately predict how physically and emotionally exhausted your Friday brain is going to be after surviving 4 more days of relentless corporate emails, traffic jams, and forced social interactions. So you enthusiastically reply, "Yes, absolutely, I'd love to." You're making a massive emotional purchase with a credit card that your Friday self is going to have to pay off. When Friday finally arrives, the bill comes due. Your social bank account is completely overdrawn. You spent all your available coins simply surviving the work week. The idea of putting on tight, rigid clothes, forcing your face into a cheerful mask, and projecting your voice over a crowded room feels utterly bankrupting. This is exactly how the first type of person is born, the guilt-tripped canceller. The person who constantly makes plans with genuine good intentions, but has to issue an emergency bankruptcy declaration for their social energy at the very last second. But what actually happens when you don't cancel? What happens when the overwhelming societal guilt forces you to push through that invisible heavy barrier and attend the social gathering anyway? At first you might even fool yourself. You smile, you laugh, you hold a beverage, and you perform the required social dance perfectly. I remember one specific Friday night years ago. I had worked 50 hours that week. My brain felt like a dry, cracked sponge. I went to a loud, crowded rooftop gathering because I desperately wanted to be perceived as a good, fun person. I stood in the corner nodding at a conversation I could not actually hear over the booming bass. I felt completely detached from my own body. I wasn't experiencing joy. I was enduring psychological torture just to fit into a mold that was never designed for me. And underneath the surface, my internal battery was draining at a terrifying speed. This brings us to a mind-blowing concept in psychology called optimal arousal theory. Imagine human beings are complex machines. Every machine requires a certain operating temperature to function perfectly. Too cold and it freezes. Too hot and it overheats and shuts down. Your brain has a baseline level of internal arousal or stimulation that it constantly, desperately tries to maintain. Extroverts are born with a naturally low baseline of internal stimulation. Their inner world is quiet. To reach their comfortable operating temperature, they literally have to seek out massive external stimulation. They need the loud music, the flashing lights, the unpredictable conversations, and the chaotic energy of a crowded room just to feel normal and alive. But you are wired differently. If you deeply love staying home, your baseline of internal stimulation is already incredibly high. Your brain is naturally running hot every single second of the day. You are constantly processing tiny details, the subtle micro-expressions on people's faces, the slight changes in tone of voice, the humming of the refrigerator, the texture of fabric on your skin. Your internal world is already a vibrant, noisy, highly active amusement park. So when you step into a busy restaurant or crowded bar, you're not just getting a little extra fun. You are being blasted with a catastrophic tsunami of sensory information. Your nervous system violently overheats. Your brain pulls the emergency brake and screams at you to get out and find a dark, quiet room immediately. And this is where our main metaphor comes in. Picture a highly advanced solar panel and a standard electrical wall plug. The people who thrive in chaotic social environments are like solar panels. They need to be out in the bright, glaring sun of constant social interaction to generate their daily power. Lock a solar panel in a dark closet and its battery drains until it metaphorically dies. But you are not a solar panel. You are a highly complex, deeply sensitive piece of technology that requires a stable, grounded wall plug. You cannot absorb energy from the frantic air around you. You have to physically return to your secure base, plug yourself into the quiet stillness of your safe environment, and let the gentle current slowly recharge your internal battery. When society demands that a wall plug person act exactly like a solar panel, it is not just temporarily exhausting, it is incredibly damaging to long-term mental health. Have you ever noticed what happens the morning after a forced, highly stimulating social event? You wake up with what psychology literally calls an introvert hangover or social hangover. Your limbs feel physically heavy, as if your bones are filled with wet sand. Your brain is foggy, making simple sentences difficult. Your eyes feel sharply sensitive to light. You feel irritable, snappy, and profoundly alone even if someone is right next to you. This is not exaggeration. Your brain has consumed a massive amount of glucose and chemical energy just to process the overwhelming volume of external data. You are experiencing literal physiological depletion. Your body is severely punishing you for ignoring its desperate pleas for stillness and isolation. But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. It's about the specific invisible chemicals flowing through your veins right now. Most people have heard of dopamine, the famous reward chemical. It's the thrilling rush you get when you win money, win a game, or meet an exciting stranger. Extroverted brains are extremely insensitive to dopamine. They require massive amounts of it just to feel a tiny buzz. That's why they endlessly chase the next big party, the next loud event, the next thrilling experience. They are chemically addicted to the external chase. But the people who deeply love staying home rely on a completely different, magical neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the beautiful chemical of deep critical thought, intense focus, calm reflection, and peaceful solitude. It rewards you when you turn your attention inward. It floods you with profound satisfaction when you're quietly reading a brilliant book, slowly cooking a warm meal with soft music playing, or simply sitting on your balcony watching rain fall. Your brain is physically injecting you with pure joy for seeking peace. You are not missing out on the wild party outside. Your brain is throwing its own highly exclusive, incredibly sophisticated private party inside your skull, and acetylcholine is the VIP guest. This perfect biological mechanism creates the second type of person in our psychological funnel, the sensory overloaded survivor. This is the person who forces themselves to go out, tries their hardest to be engaged and cheerful, but inevitably ends up hiding in the dirty public bathroom stall for 20 minutes just to stare at a white wall and take slow, shaking breaths. If you've ever locked yourself in a public restroom to escape the noise of a party, you know the overwhelming relief I'm talking about. You are not weird, broken, or antisocial for doing that. You are a biological organism instinctively trying to lower your cortisol levels. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone. When your brain is overloaded with too much fast dopamine and too much unpredictable noise, it perceives that environment as a literal physical threat. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tense, your breathing becomes shallow. Going to a loud party for your specific nervous system is the biological equivalent of being hunted by a dangerous predator in the wild. Your nervous system stays trapped in a low-grade fight-or-flight state. And the only place on Earth where that terrifying alarm system finally turns off, where your heavy invisible armor drops to the floor, is the glorious moment you turn the lock on your front door and step quietly inside your home. Think carefully about what your home actually represents to your brain. It is not just bricks, wood, and glass. For you, your home is a literal external extension of your autonomic nervous system. It is the only geographical location on the planet where you have 100% control over your sensory environment. Out in the wild world, everything is a potential threat. You can't control the harsh fluorescent lights at the office. You can't control the loud phone talker on the subway. You can't control the sudden emotional demands of strangers. Every tiny adaptation costs you a massive, unrecoverable amount of mental energy. But inside your home, you are the supreme architect of your own experience. You control the perfect temperature, the comforting dimness of the lamps, the soft texture of your blanket, the gentle volume of the TV, and most importantly, who has access to your precious emotional energy. This extreme level of environmental control is not a luxury. For a highly sensitive nervous system, it is absolute biological survival. It is the only way your exhausted brain can switch from sympathetic, survival, mode into parasympathetic, rest and digest, healing mode. When you're sitting silently on your couch, wrapped in a soft blanket, doing absolutely nothing, you are not wasting time. You are performing deep, critical medical healing on your own brain cells. But here is the truly tragic, profoundly unfair part. Modern society has weaponized this fundamental, perfectly normal biological need. We have built an entire culture that actively shames and ridicules people for needing pure peace. We label them weird hermits. We call them deeply antisocial. We constantly tell them they must get out of their comfort zone if they ever want to succeed. Why on earth is the comfort zone considered such a terrible place? Why have we demonized the exact beautiful place where human beings feel most safe, secure, and grounded? The absolute truth is that pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is only valuable if it leads to genuine, sustainable growth. If pushing out of your quiet comfort zone just leads to massive sensory burnout, a pounding headache, and 3 days of deep exhaustion, you are not growing. You are aggressively self-destructing your mental health for the sake of looking normal to people who don't even deeply care about your well-being. We are constantly brainwashed by a digital world that mathematically profits from our continuous exhausting movement. Social media algorithms are deliberately designed to trigger a terrifying fear of missing out. You watch a 10-second, perfectly filtered video of beautiful people dancing under neon lights, and your tired brain is tricked into believing that loud chaos is the standard for human happiness. But the camera never shows the brutal exhaustion of the long ride home. It never shows the hollow silence in the back of the taxi. It never shows the meticulous planning, the uncomfortable outfit, the expensive transportation, the hard-earned money spent, and the exhausting effort of pretending that shouting over vibrating music is deeply fulfilling. We are unfairly comparing our profoundly peaceful private reality to a highly curated, manufactured public illusion. And in doing so, we accidentally poison our own beautiful peace. We convince our brilliant minds that sitting quietly on the couch with a warm cup of tea is somehow a tragic failure in life. I want you to pause right now and deeply remember the last time you successfully, proudly canceled an overwhelming plan and boldly chose to stay home. Close your eyes for a second and feel it again, that pure, unfiltered, magical joy of a completely empty evening stretching out beautifully in front of you like a warm, open invitation. That feeling is absolutely not the joy of a lazy, unmotivated person avoiding hard work. No. That is the deep, profound, ancient joy of a complex wall-plug person finally, securely connecting to their true power source. It is the exquisite joy of a highly sensitive brain being flooded with beautiful, calming, healing acetylcholine. It is the overwhelming joy of a severely overstimulated nervous system, finally dropping its heavy, exhausting iron shield and breathing a massive, deep sigh of true relief. But what if staying home is not just about resting and hiding? What if there is a secret third type of person? A highly evolved type of person who does not just use their home to desperately hide from the loud noise, but actually strategically uses the profound silence of their home to build an incredibly powerful, completely untouchable inner world. A type of person who has brilliantly turned their solitary, quiet nature into a massive, deeply unfair psychological advantage in this chaotic life. And when you finally understand exactly what this third rare type of person is actively doing behind closed doors, you will absolutely never look at your quiet, peaceful weekends the same way ever again. This brings us directly to the third and most powerful type of person in our psychological framework. We call them the deep recharger. This is the person who has completely stopped apologizing for their fundamental biological nature. They do not cancel plans at the last minute with overwhelming guilt because they never forcefully made those exhausting plans in the first place. The deep recharger understands a profound psychological secret that extroverted society actively tries to hide from us. They know that deep, profound creativity, intense problem-solving, and true authentic self-discovery simply cannot physically exist in a loud, crowded room filled with superficial small talk. When the deep recharger firmly locks their front door and turns off their phone, they are not desperately hiding from a scary, intimidating world. They are intentionally, actively building an incredibly rich, untouchable universe entirely inside their own mind. Think about the most brilliant, deeply impactful artists, writers, philosophers, and silent innovators throughout human history. Leonardo da Vinci, Virginia Woolf, Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, they did not discover their groundbreaking, world-changing ideas while screaming over heavily vibrating bass at a crowded downtown nightclub. They found their absolute genius in the heavy, beautiful, profound silence of their own private, isolated spaces. The deep recharger uses that exact same magical acetylcholine pathway we talked about earlier, not just to desperately recover from extreme sensory burnout, but to actively, aggressively construct their own brilliant reality. While the heavily stimulated solar panel people are out there frantically, desperately spending their precious energetic currency on temporary, superficial validation, the deep recharger is sitting completely alone, quietly, silently compounding their internal mental wealth. They are actively processing complex, heavy emotions that other people constantly, furiously run away from. They are carefully, meticulously listening to the tiny, quiet whispers of their own genuine intuition. The absolute truth is this: the loud, chaotic external world constantly demands that you perform a highly exhausting fake version of yourself. But inside the profound, absolute safety of your own isolated sanctuary, you do not have to perform for absolutely anyone. You can be beautifully messy, entirely quiet, and fundamentally, deeply authentic. You have the ultimate luxurious freedom to let your complex, highly sensitive nervous system entirely unravel and completely heal. So I want you to deeply, heavily reflect on your own specific behaviors right now. Look very closely at the real, hidden reasons behind your actions. Are you currently staying quietly inside your house because you are genuinely terrified of facing the unpredictable, scary external world? Or are you actively, proudly staying inside your safe home because your rich, vibrant internal world is simply infinitely more beautiful, infinitely more fascinating, and infinitely more rewarding than anything that loud, superficial, chaotic society could ever possibly offer you? If you're staying home because you are heavily trapped by severe social anxiety, that is a painful cage, and you deeply deserve to slowly, carefully find your way out. But if you're staying home because that exact quiet stillness completely, entirely fills your soul with a warm, heavy, comforting peace, then you are not broken, you are not painfully boring, and you are absolutely not wasting your precious, beautiful youth. You have simply successfully, beautifully mastered the absolute greatest survival skill in our modern, heavily overstimulated era. You have profoundly learned exactly how to be entirely, completely, and wonderfully alone without ever actually feeling lonely. You have successfully turned your quiet isolation into an impenetrable, powerful shield. So the next time a loud, energetic friend aggressively demands to know why you always, constantly want to stay home on a perfectly good weekend, do not awkwardly, deeply apologize. Do not invent a fake, exhausting physical illness. Look them directly, confidently in the eye and simply tell them, my nervous system requires a much higher quality of profound stillness than your chaotic world can currently provide. You are a wall plug person actively protecting your precious, irreplaceable power supply, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with deeply, fiercely loving your safe, quiet sanctuary. If you completely, entirely resonated with this profound, hidden psychological truth, you absolutely must hit the subscribe button right now. Because in our very next video, I am going perfectly deep into a terrifying psychological secret about why you constantly, severely overthink every tiny little interaction right before you fall asleep. It is a massive, hidden truth that 99% of psychologists completely misunderstand, and if you miss it, you will continue to falsely blame yourself for a brilliant biological mechanism your brain is doing completely on purpose. Do not miss it.